Okay, let me paint you a picture here. Imagine it's just a regular Tuesday morning. You wake up, you pour yourself a cup of coffee, casually check your phone, and right there at the top of your inbox is an email from HR. The subject line says something super vague, like company restructuring or changes to business conditions. You open it up and instantly your stomach drops. Just like that, your job is gone. No warning, no transition period. Your paycheck has literally just vanished into thin air. Well, welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to build your 6-month financial fortress. Really think about that exact moment. So what happens next? There's this total, deafening silence right where your steady income used to be. And for most of us, that silence is immediately filled with sheer, unadulterated panic. You suddenly realize you've got rent or a mortgage due in exactly 2 weeks, car payments, groceries, and absolutely zero concrete plan for what happens now. That kind of anxiety, it's completely paralyzing.
And here is the staggering reality of our current situation. According to the Federal Reserve, nearly 40% of Americans couldn't cover an unexpected $400 expense without having to borrow money or sell something they own. I mean, let that sink in for a second. We're not talking about $40,000 or even $4,000, just $400. And yet every piece of generic financial advice out there flippantly tells you to, just save 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Right, cool, super helpful, guys. But how and where? Well, we are going to answer exactly that today.
So here's our step-by-step blueprint for today's explainer. The sudden zero, the 3 income zones, the friction buffer, the acceleration strategy, the emergency action plan, and finally, the psychological fortress.
All right, let's dive into step 1, the sudden zero.
You see, the standard advice to simply save 3 to 6 months of expenses treats everyone exactly the same. It assumes we all have stable jobs, totally predictable expenses, and rock-solid willpower. But honestly, that generic advice is quietly setting millions of people up to fail in a really slow, painful way. I absolutely love this quote because it perfectly captures the psychological warfare of staring at accessible money. Imagine someone puts a delicious slice of cheesecake right in front of you and says, "Don't eat this, it's for emergencies only." I mean, how long before that cheesecake is gone? That is exactly what most people's emergency funds look like. They save up a few $1,000 and then, Black Friday rolls around or the credit card bill looks a little scary, and suddenly that sacred emergency cash becomes a general purpose, I'll rebuild it later fund. And spoiler alert, they never rebuild it.
Moving right along to section 2, the 3 income zones.
So your specific income bracket dictates your strategy, and that cookie-cutter advice we just talked about completely ignores this. Let's break it down. If you're making under $55,000, the psychological trap is despair. The end goal feels so massive that you might just panic and not start at all. Now, if you're in that middle zone of $55,000 to $100,000, you actually have enough breathing room to save, but your trap is over-investing that cash because leaving it in a savings account feels lazy. And if you're making over $100,000, your massive trap is lifestyle creep. You probably have a ton of money tied up in a 401k or real estate, meaning you look incredibly wealthy on paper, but you are dangerously cash poor if an actual emergency strikes today.
Let's look really closely at that first group, the under $55,000 bracket. If you're staring down a $16,000 savings goal, it feels impossible, right? But here is the secret. You do not build it all at once. Actually, scratch that. You build it in specific layers. First, you just focus on the 1-month starter shield, which is roughly $2,800. That alone is going to dramatically reduce your everyday financial anxiety. Then you push for the 3-month baseline. And why push past 3 months? Because in today's job market, it takes an average of 4 to 6 months to find a job replacing a $40,000 salary. 3 months of savings really just gets you to the panic zone. Your ultimate 6-month target is a multi-year project, and honestly, that is completely okay.
Now, if you are in that middle income group making $55,000 to $100,000, listen closely to me. Do not, and I mean do not, make the dangerous mistake of putting your emergency cash into the stock market. People do this all the time because they're chasing higher returns. But imagine the market drops 30% the exact same week your company announces layoffs. Now your safety net is totally shredded right when you need it most. This money isn't there to make you rich. It's insurance. You wouldn't expect your car insurance to generate wealth, would you? Apply the exact same logic to this money.
All right, section 3, the friction buffer.
Where you keep your money matters just as much as how much money you actually keep. So why is keeping your emergency cash in your regular checking account the absolute wrong answer? It's because of a behavioral psychology phenomenon known as the proximity effect. Basically, if you log into your banking app to buy groceries and you see 20 grand sitting right there in your checking account, your brain tricks you into thinking, "Wow, I'm rich." You end up spending money faster simply because it's highly visible and instantly accessible. The closer the money is, the faster it disappears on total non-emergencies. So we basically need to protect you from yourself by creating a friction buffer. Your standard checking account is way too accessible and it earns practically zero interest. But an online high-yield savings account, or HYSA, that is the perfect vehicle. Recently, these have been paying roughly 4.5 to 5.2% APY. But more importantly, it takes 2 to 3 business days to transfer the money back to your main checking account. And that right there, that is the magic friction. It's annoying enough to completely stop you from impulse buying a new TV on a random Tuesday night, but it's fast enough to actually pay for a legitimate medical crisis or a sudden job loss.
Which brings us to Section 4, the acceleration strategy. Okay, so we know what to save and where to put it, but how do you actually get there without it taking a decade? We need to go way beyond that tired old advice of just stop buying your morning coffee. Here are 3 highly practical, aggressive utilities you can use literally right now. First, the reverse budget emergency sprint. For just 60 to 90 days, you live on the absolute minimum. Every single dollar you get goes to the emergency account first, before any fun or dining out. Second, leverage windfalls aggressively. The average American tax refund is about $3,000. That alone is your entire 1-month starter shield funded in a single day, if you don't blow it. Third, convert your clutter to cash. Research shows the average home has over $3,000 worth of unused items just sitting around gathering dust. Go sell it. A focused 90-day sprint using these tactics can build a massive foundation incredibly fast.
Moving to Section 5, the Emergency Action Plan.
Let's play out the worst-case scenario. What if that HR email arrives today and your income totally vanishes? You need to know exactly what the order of operations is so you don't just panic. There's this psychological phenomenon called the pain of paying, and it gets terrifyingly amplified when your income drops to zero. To combat this, you follow this exact chronological checklist. Day 1, log in and mercilessly, and I mean mercilessly, cut every single subscription. Streaming, the gym, meal kits, that's instantly $200 to $400 back in your pocket a month. Then apply for unemployment immediately, because it takes 2 to 4 weeks to process. Waiting will cost you thousands. Day 2, pick up the phone and call your creditors before you miss a payment. Ask them about their hardship programs. A lot of them will give you 60 to 90 days of deferred payments. Day 3, temporarily pause your 401k contributions. You cannot eat your retirement balance while you're unemployed. Do these in this exact order and you immediately take back control.
And finally, Section 6, the psychological fortress. We're pivoting now from the raw math of saving to the deeper, emotional purpose of this entire endeavor. Because honestly, the real magic of this fortress isn't the money itself. Listen to this insight from behavioral finance research and really let it sink in. Financial stress reduces cognitive function in a way comparable to losing an entire night's sleep consistently. Think about how foggy and terrible your decision-making is when you haven't slept for 24 hours. That is exactly how your brain operates every single day when you are financially stressed out. Your emergency fund isn't just protection against a job loss. It is active protection against making terrible, fear-based choices in panic mode. When you have a cushion, you stop putting up with toxic jobs. You negotiate harder because you aren't desperate. You actually sleep at night.
And really, that brings us to the ultimate takeaway from this whole explainer. Financial freedom doesn't start when you buy a yacht or hit millions in your retirement account. No, it starts the exact moment you stop being financially desperate. This boring, unsexy safety net sitting in a separate account earning 5%, it is the master key to living and thinking clearly. It's your absolute foundation. So I'm going to leave you with this question to ask yourself right now. If that Tuesday morning HR email arrives in your inbox tomorrow, are you going to spiral into a panic, or are you going to be able to just take a deep breath and say, I've got this?